Look closely at this scene. A wheat field under the morning light, with farmers diligently working beneath the brilliant sun.
What if I told you that this picture is a lie?
In reality, in the year 1348, a day of harvesting in England was not a song of labor. It was a race against death. Right now, through the lens of AI, we travel back to London in the year 1348, at the peak of the Black Death. And if you survived a single day in these fields, it wasn't because you were strong, but because death chose someone else. Do you dare to look straight at the filthy truth hidden beneath layers of rotting straw? Do you dare to taste the fragrant stew packed with disease?
Welcome to A Day of Harvest in medieval England,
where the line between a full meal and a death sentence is no more than an itchy bite from a flea. When dawn becomes a summons, 5 a.m., take a deep breath. Can you smell the clean scent of wild grass and morning dew? Dawn over the English countryside of the 14th century unfolds like a poem written by nature itself. The first light of day gilds the heavy heads of wheat, while a gentle wind sets the fields in motion, rippling all the way to the horizon. But pause for a moment. Do you really believe this is the whole truth? Look over here. Within the solid walls of Wallingford Castle, time seems to stand still. The nobility remain sunk in deep sleep upon their luxurious beds, shielded by feather-filled mattresses and heavy brocade curtains that keep the creeping cold at bay. For them, dawn is nothing more than a faint streak of light slipping through the window, signaling the beginning of yet another day of comfort and indulgence. And out there, the light is harsher. The sound of iron sickles slicing through wheat cuts the air. That is the moment when the boundary of comfort is shattered. In small villages like Brightwell, before the mist has even begun to lift, thousands of peasants are already rising from their damp huts. They do not wake to admire the beauty of creation. They wake because they are hungry. The one truth every peasant understands is this: if they do not go to the fields, there will be no bread at the end of the day. Hands gripping sickles, backs bent low, bare feet pressing into the damp earth. There is no concept of working hours, there are no days off, and there is no right to refuse. The wheat must be harvested, the taxes must be paid, and life must be sustained for one more day. This is not a choice, this is the coercion of survival. I wonder, as they stood amid those golden fields of the Midlands, did they truly feel their beauty, or did they see only a sentence being passed? England now stands at a turning point that most of its people do not yet realize. At southern ports such as Melcombe Regis, the Black Death has already appeared, and it is only a matter of time before it spreads to every village. I want you to look at those cracked hands caked with mud and soil. Can you feel the weight of the rough wooden sickle in their grip? For them, dawn in the year 1348 does not bring hope. It feels like a sentence passed at first light for a long day riddled with danger, where life and death are separated by no more than a single breath. Morning labor, like machines. 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. The illusion of tranquility shatters completely. In its place emerges a brutal rhythm where human beings are stripped of their souls and reduced to biological machines. Only a single rhythm echoes across the fields of Brightwell village, veiled in a thin mist. Bend down, cut, bind, stand up. Repeat. Bend down, cut, bind, stand up. Thousands of bodies move in unison, forming a brutal dance of survival. Look at that rhythm. It is not labor, it is torture repeated thousands of times. Bend down, cut the wheat to the root with a rusted sickle. Bind it together with bloodied hands. Stand up only to see an endless band of wheat still waiting ahead, stretching all the way to the horizon, where far in the distance, the tower of Great Hazley Church can be seen. You are not allowed to stop. You are not allowed to break the rhythm, because right behind you looms the shadow of the overseer, a man on horseback or standing on higher ground, his hand gripping a leather whip. His shadow stretches long across the backs, bent low before him. He is there, the overseer, the embodiment of merciless authority. His shouts cut through the wind itself, and that leather whip is ready to find any back that dares to slow. In the year 1348, when every grain of wheat is as precious as gold to sustain a dying realm, compassion is a luxury that does not exist in this field. Their spines are being reshaped, permanently bent into the curve of the sickle. Cramps from salt deficiency and dehydration begin to seize their muscles, turning every movement into a tearing pain beneath the scorching sun of Oxfordshire. And yet, strangely on this field, no one speaks to anyone. They do not look at one another. They do not share their pain. They only count. 1 bundle, 10 bundles, 100 bundles. In this space, you are no longer a human being with a name or emotions. You are merely a component of the harvesting system, a cheap, expendable link ready to be replaced the moment it breaks. Ask yourself this: how many hours could you endure this mechanical rhythm before your mind is completely emptied? As the sun begins to scorch the skin at the back of your neck, a bitter truth slowly takes shape. Are you working in order to live, or are you being drained dry to sustain a world already on the brink of collapse under the weight of a plague? But as the final strength of the morning is drained away, when your hands tremble too violently to hold the sickle steady, a signal of salvation finally breaks the rhythm. But be warned, because the bowl of stew waiting for you is nothing less than a culinary trap thick with the stench of death. Midday. When hunger finds its voice, 12 p.m. As the sun reaches its zenith, the exhausted farmers are forced to leave the golden fields behind and step into another world, darker, thicker, with stench, where they enter a new gamble for survival, this time at the tavern table. The sound of iron sickles slicing through wheat comes to an abrupt halt. What follows is the dry growl of empty stomachs, and then the coarse noise of a wretched tavern by the road leading to Wallingford. The heavy clatter of bowls and plates colliding, the scrape of boot soles dragging across a straw-covered floor. The sun hangs overhead, suspended like a block of fire, searing backs already bent under exhaustion. By now, hunger is no longer a sensation. It is a tightening pain tormenting every fiber of flesh.
After half a day of relentless sickle work, lunch for a farmer in 1348 is not indulgence.
It is a desperate act of survival, an attempt to keep the body from collapsing in the middle of the wheat fields. They push open the tavern's warped wooden door. They do not enter to rest, they enter to place a wager with death. Look closely at what the AI is peeling back behind that kitchen door. No rules of hygiene exist here. On a chipped wooden chopping block blackened by years of soaked-in bodily fluids, a massive slab of meat is being carved apart. It bears none of the bright red color of life. Its surface is dark dense, coated in a slick mucus sheen that catches the light only faintly in the shadows. There are only flies, dried blood, and the indifference of an age standing on the edge of annihilation. The cook hurls fistfuls of pungent spices into a copper pot billowing with steam. But this is not culinary craft. It is a brutal act of disguise. The sharp fragrance of pepper, cinnamon, and bitter herbs is used to smother the smell of rotting flesh, that sour, acrid stench already embedded in every brick of this kitchen. Each spoonful of stew swallowed is a horrifying compromise. The farmer eats it while knowing better than anyone what lies hidden beneath the layer of spices. In a body already drained by 15 hours of labor, the immune system has almost no strength left to resist. Contamination does not repel them. It seeps into every fiber of flesh, quietly preparing the dysentery or poisoning that will erupt before the night is over. This midday meal keeps them on their feet in the fields for a few more hours, but it also draws them quietly closer to their own graves. The rot is not confined to the table. It is seeping into every breath they take. And the truth is even more horrifying. when they sit down to rest after this meal. Do you dare to look down at your feet right now? The silent carpet of death, 3 p.m., when hunger is briefly appeased and the body begins to unravel from exhaustion, the farmers seek out a dark corner to rest unknowingly, stepping straight from a culinary trap into a nursery of death hidden beneath the rotting layer of straw at their feet. Harsh, rattling coughs, gasping breaths tearing through the thickened air, 3 in the afternoon. The heat of the wheat fields of Brightwell and the heavy weight of greasy stew have begun to drain the last remnants of strength. A few peasants no longer have the energy to stand and return to their sickles. They slump onto the tavern floor, heads bowed between their knees, spinning into the delirium of utter exhaustion. Blurred shadows of passing feet drift through the tavern's dim light. They sit there searching for a brief moment of rest, unaware that they are sitting atop something far more dangerous than a sharpened sickle or the rotting slabs of meat in the kitchen. Look down. Beneath your feet is not the ordinary floor of a tavern in the Thames Valley. It is a thick gray layer of rotting straw, matted and compacted. For years, the innkeeper has never truly cleaned this place. Instead of sweeping away the filth, they simply scatter a fresh layer of straw over the old pathogens left behind from previous seasons of plague. Try to imagine what lies hidden beneath that mat. Urine, spilled ale, the waste of drunken patrons, and even dried bloodstains from last year's brawls. All of it mingles and ferments in the darkness of the dying village of Brightwell. The decay rising from below is not merely the smell of damp straw. It is the scent of a vast bacterial nursery lying dormant, waiting for an exhausted body to strike. This is not straw meant for rest. This is a graveyard of waste. Each time someone sits down, millions of mold spores and bacteria accumulated from the sweat, urine, and dried blood of countless wretches before them are stirred awake. Rough, cracked hands, split open by endless labor, touch the rotting straw, then without thought, rise to wipe sweat from the face. In that single instinctive motion, millions of pathogens accumulated within the filthy ecosystem beneath the floor find their way into the body. As the light of dusk begins to fade, this false calm is shattered. Beneath the rotting straw, the tavern's true inhabitants begin to stir. The faint rustling sounds from the dark corners are not the wind, they are the footsteps of those who will seal the farmer's fate, sewer rats, and the fleas they carry bearing the plague. Dusk belongs to no man. 6:30 p.m. As darkness fully settles in, the true masters of this place finally emerge from the depths of decay. From the cracks beneath the walls and the damp layers of straw, sewer rats begin to emerge, their claws scratching and rasping against the packed earth, each sound sharply audible in air thick with sweat and the sour stench of fermented ale. Creatures of the darkness scurry across the floor, boldly climbing onto rotting wooden barrels, slipping between the motionless legs of farmers slumped in exhausted sleep. However, the appearance of the rats is only the prelude. The true bringers of death are not these loathsome animals, but the tiny fleas clustered thickly in their filthy fur. These creatures carry Yersinia pestis, the bacterium that fueled the Black Death sweeping across Europe in 1348. As sewer rats slip through the torn clothing of farmers collapsed in drunken sleep, the fleas abandon their rodent hosts in search of fresh blood. They crawl onto human skin, slide into the folds of fabric, and deliver their bites in complete silence, sealing a fate no one will notice until it is far too late. This is the moment a deadly curse is passed on without the farmer ever knowing, a biological infection quietly taking hold in sleep, beginning its work of destruction from within, turning what should have been rest after a day's labor into the opening chapter of a grave already prepared. Late night. The final exit. 9 p.m. As darkness thickens and engulfs everything, the farmers trudge home carrying their exhausted breath and the uninvited guests clinging silently to the hems of their clothing. 9 o'clock at night. A day of labor that wrung the body dry in the fields has come to an end. They drag themselves along the dark dirt road toward their ramshackle homes. Their clothes are soaked not only with the stench of ale and the rot of tavern straw, but with something invisible, the scent of contagion already sown. A filthy, impoverished dwelling swallowed by darkness. The focus settles on a cramped kitchen corner where children sleep beside livestock or against grime-stained walls. To step into their home is to enter a second nursery of disease. In the cramped kitchen, food is cooked directly beside the damp ground where sewer rats and insects move freely. Children exhausted after a long day spent playing in filthy alleys collapse into sleep on torn mats just inches away from rats hiding in the darkness. The entire family, from adults to children, breathes the same air thick with dampness, hearth smoke, and filth. This is a cycle with no escape. Their living space is not merely a shelter, it is an engine of contagion, spreading disease at a terrifying speed. As they sink into deep sleep, the plague begins its work, turning vague headaches and mild fevers into a nightmare within just a few hours. For them, this night is not merely a time to rest. It is a night of beginnings, the beginning of the first symptoms of swollen blackened buboes, and of an ending that the entire city of London is about to face. Late night in London, 1348. The last candles have burned out, sealing an unsettling journey from sunlit fields to floors layered with rotting straw. Have you ever asked yourself how you would survive in a world where death hides beneath the place you rest, and where the line between life and death is as thin as the bite of a flea? Those farmers fell, leaving behind abandoned fields, yet from that collapse, a new world began to take shape. We look back at them from the safety of the present, but the lessons they paid for with their lives about hygiene and about indifference in the face of a pandemic remain painfully relevant. The journey of a single working day in 1348 ends here, but history still holds darker secrets waiting to be stripped bare. Which detail from today's journey unsettled you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you're passionate about exploring the raw, hidden corners of history through the lens of the AI, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episodes. Thank you for watching and for walking this journey with us.